Lori and Jeremy Lowell, thanks so much for joining the We Rise podcast. I am delighted to have you on today. For listeners, Lori and Jeremy are my yoga teachers, and they are such a beautiful embodiment of bringing love and teaching from a place of love, joyfulness, and empowerment. I'm really excited to have you on the podcast today. So will you introduce yourselves so folks know who I have the delight of speaking to today?
So I'm Lori. I'm Lori Lowell.
I'm Jeremy Lowell. Nice to meet you all.
Great
We
to have you.
reside part-time in Aspen, Colorado, and part-time in Northern Virginia. And we're here to answer your questions.
Awesome. I'm so glad. So tell us a little bit about your story. You have a really cool story. Tell us a little bit about your background and what you do.
Mm-hmm. Let me go first.
Sure.
Okay. So I grew up in a very musical family. My mother is a Holocaust survivor and a very famous world-renowned musician. So I spent my childhood and well into my adulthood singing and performing with my mother. I have a background in dance, and I started my career working on Capitol Hill for Nike. And Nike then needed fitness, what do you call them? They were called Eakins, which was Nike spelled backwards. And they needed us to go out into the field of the communities that we lived in and distribute clothing, shoes that were Nike branded to these fitness facilities, because Reebok and Avia were coming up in fitness and Nike needed to come up behind it. So I did that for a while, and that took me into fitness. And so I continued to work for Nike and met Jeremy through a friend. I challenged him to an aerobics class way back in 1986.
I love it.
And so I clothed Jeremy with all of this beautiful Nike fitness gear, and I dragged him to an aerobics class. And he took my class, and that was it. We knew immediately pretty much that this was a match.
Wow.
And continued our journey. Jeremy, as he'll tell you, is a dentist, and he had a practice, and we opened up our own practice together, and I ran his practice for him and danced with modern dance companies during our early time together.
She would pull me away from patients in a root canal. I take off my mask and gloves and thread the needle in the sewing machine so that she could then make the costumes.
For the dance performances. I mean, we were very, very organic, very, very homegrown. There was and we started with nothing and from scratch. With that, we became very involved in fitness throughout our entire relationship together, started having children, and had an opportunity to come into the fitness industry and become partners with a gentleman, a good friend of ours, who already had a few facilities. So we came in and started running programming for him. And we were in the ownership space and operation space, but our forte was programming. Mm-hmm. And continued on with dentistry, raising our family, and fitness. And our fitness journey turned into opening up more clubs, up to the point where we at one point had 11 clubs. Oh. And through that journey, we decided that we needed to come into a more mindful space in the fitness space. And that's when we embarked on our yoga journey in 2002. And decided to embark in yoga teacher trainings in 2006, which led us to our Drishti Beats project. Okay. That's kind of that's 30 years in a nutshell. We're together 35 years and happily married for 35 years.
Beautiful. That's awesome. Jeremy,
you want to add anything
to round that beautiful story out?
I'll just add that I too grew up in a musical world, piano from the age of 0. And I went to dental school, and shortly thereafter, after dental school, I went to work for a pediatric dentist, a children's dentist. And I came from the world of organized sports, soccer, lacrosse. And after you get out of that in the college years, where do you work out was the question I asked him. And he mentioned there was this aerobics class taught by this girl named Lori where the introduction came. And the challenge why would I know that you don't wear socks up to your knees and indoor soccer shoes to an aerobics class? I don't know. But I was made fun of. And as Lori said, the journey took us all the way through to, we watched the dynamics of what people were doing in their own workouts within our facilities, from the very young to the very, very old. And with ourselves coming into a moment where, from the bombastic type of movement that sometimes is done, to let's work on our balance, let's work on our flexibility, yoga just kind of fell into our lap. And I remember very distinctly, we had a director of our yoga program at one point, many years before we took a true interest in it. And I was so impressed in the level of core strength that she had, that it was a question in my mind, what do the yoga people know that I don't know?
Yeah.
Right? What are they doing that we don't do? And how could this woman be so well put together in terms of strength, flexibility, and at the same time move with such grace and move with a level of happiness that sometimes you don't see in other people who are exercising? And that's sort of what led us right into this yogic journey. And in terms of where we went with the yoga journey, our kids grew up in a musical household. Kids started producing music on their computers. The style and tone of the music that they loved fit a genre. We call it down-tempo electronic chill, which we were able to, I should say, Lori said, let's create a yoga class around the music. And to this day, we run this very interesting sort of eclectic family, Partridge Family group, where we are having a wonderful time presenting yoga classes with live musicians, including our daughter, who's a vocalist, and our son, a conscious rapper, and also is producing some music as well. That's where we are. And it's evolved to a yoga teacher training, of which, Christine, we are honored to have you in it.
So delighted. It's been such a important part of my own life in the last year and a half since I've been involved. So really appreciate it. I guess year. Can you talk a little bit about what you saw? So two things, you mentioned this kind of organic homegrown evolution that you as a couple had, and the ways that you embarked on projects, but the way you describe it, it's almost eyes wide open, fully engaged, and you do bring that to the way you teach. You're really embodying the present moment in my experience with you. You're there, and the way you talk about your own life story, you're there. Can you talk a little bit more about what that looks like for you in terms of engaging in the present moment, and then how your journey shifted from the fitness world to the yoga world? What did your own inner landscapes look like and change? So present moment and inner landscape. Would love to hear more about that.
So, all these trigger words, it takes work. So you have to identify where you are, what society has created for you, and how you've come into the space of society. And then you have to decide, I need to make some shifts that are spiritually up-leveling. I need to up-level my spirituality. I need to up-level my mindfulness. And I want to create a space that makes sense to accomplish my why and our why. And our why is to serve. And so with serving our family, serving our kids, serving our music vision, we just really needed to evolve into a more mindful space through practice. So it started with the yoga practice, the practice of yoga, the practice of poses, the finding patience, the finding the ability to try easy, let movement evolve, explore it to where it goes. And from there comes the spirituality, the language of yoga, the philosophical aspects of yoga, all the things that you want to learn more about to help you live a more mindful and yogic lifestyle. So it was baby steps as we shifted. But as we shifted, things started evolving and a lifestyle was created. And the lifestyle became what we call Drishti Beats. And Drishti, as you know, and for your audience, it means a focused and concentrated gaze. It started with developing music and then moved into teacher training. And we had to go out and do big trainings ourselves and tons of studies. So from 2006 to 2014, that was the evolution. And in 2014 is when we launched our yoga performance, our yoga music, and our teacher trainings. That was kind of how it all went from the fitness space into the yoga space. And the fitness space is still really important to us. We strength train all the time. We still have clubs, we upskill, but we want to create an environment for our staff, for our coworkers that's more mindful, more caring. We want our environments to be a place where people jump out of bed in the morning and they can't wait to get to work because they're cared for and they're loved in a very organic way. And so we are not corporate. We are true, organic mom and pops that have a vision and a mission to, and our vision is to create the best possible fitness and wellness environments for all populations. And that is our mission. And we drive that home with our trainees and our staff and coworkers every day. Jeremy?
Yeah, love that.
Now that
I'll take that even a step further. I grew up in an educational family. Both of my parents were educators. And for me, the question always was, what don't I know? And what can I learn? And then once I learn something, what can I do with what I've learned? Is it just something I'm going to tuck in my pocket, become arrogant about having knowledge and sort of turn my nose up to people who don't know what may be something that I've learned? And that was never my thought process. My thought process always was pay it forward, right? Always pay it forward. And what can I learn today? And when you talk about the idea of where we come from and where we go, and I just can't wait. If both feet hit the floor at the same time in the morning, it's a good day already. Everything from there is like icing on the cake.
Jeremy's glass is always half full.
Oh, it's
always,
half
no
full.
matter what. Best attitude, but he's had to do the work to get there.
And that's exactly what I was going to say. I mean, it's about work, and I think that we're all dealt with whatever life we've been dealt with. Me personally, I lost both of my parents in dental school. That could have taken me down into a deep, dark hole. Lori's dad lived to 100, right? My parents didn't see 60, right? So 40 years extra she gets with her parents. My parents never got to see Lori. My parents never got to see my children or the grandchildren, right? But what am I going to do with that? And my thought process is I can sit and wallow or take the next step forward. And for me, and what I try to promote in our family, with you as a trainee, other peoples who are embodying whatever goals they're moving forward to, what I try to push forward is step forward. Just take the next step forward. Never stop moving forward. Do the work. Sometimes the work is hard, right? It's not easy to get past some of the stuff that we've got. And we talk about in yoga, chitti vritti, these ruminations in our head that come back to us, the habits that come back, our knee-jerk reactions that happen over and over. And the question is, can you see that happening in yourself? Can you stop that? Can you, if you can't stop that, at least accept it and then move forward, right? And as Lori said, it's baby steps. And when you take those baby steps and really start to move forward, the world is an amazing place to be in. And until the good Lord takes me off this earth, takes any of us off this earth, what can we give to the next person? How can we make the next person's life easier, more insightful, more confident? That's really our goal, right?
Yeah,
To
I
just
love that.
pass it forward.
I love that. So you've talked about your mission to serve. You've talked about, both of you have talked about having an awareness really of what's possible, moving forward in baby steps. And you've also talked about doing the work. Can you talk a little bit more about what doing the work has looked like for each of you? And then in the trainees that you have, what really holds people back from doing the work, from being in the present, wherever you take that?
You want me to go or you want to go?
Go ahead. I mean, I know what holds.
Go ahead.
It's let's start with the students, the trainees, and because they carry the same thing that all of us carry. There's a lot of self-doubt. The judgment piece that we've taught ourselves and have become is overwhelming. You can't look at yourself in the mirror and say, I'm beautiful. It's not accepted. And we have to start celebrating our inner beauty and our outer beauty, and we don't. And we judge ourselves, and we're hard on ourselves, and we have this perfectionism issue. And as we always say perfection is the enemy of progress. And it's true. So what ends up happening is that you can get very excited to do something, but then all those things take you away from doing it. And then that's when all the self-doubt comes in. And what makes this training, and I may be going a little bit off topic, makes this training so important is that people need to learn how to manage their own time. So if I say to you, Christine, chapter 1 video is due next week, it would be a whole different process for you than for me to say, Christine, chapter 1 is self-paced. You hand in your work when you're ready. Now, all of a sudden, the commitment, the responsibility is on you. And you have to take responsibility for yourself. You have to take responsibility for finishing yourself, not having to meet a deadline. And we live in deadlines, and that's not yoga. So this is the most important thing that our students have to embrace. And some of them embrace it really, really well, and some of them not so much. But it doesn't matter, because wherever or however they embrace it, that's their journey, that's their path, and that will eventually become their svadharma, their path. And it's been magnificent to teach it, to watch it, and to watch it evolve. And we have to do the same thing. And for us, we're constantly reinventing ourselves. And that's power, and that's joy, because it's always about what's next. And it's fun, and it's interesting, and we love change. And we're blessed to have each other to journey through this process. Jer?
I'll go back to my childhood for this answer, because, I was raised in an environment where what was resounded in my brain was, if you can read, you can do anything. But I have to learn to read. Right? And then I have to read, right? So this idea of doing the work, when I think about elementary school, all the way through high school, if you can get through high school and you can learn to read and write and do arithmetic, you can accomplish anything if you choose to do the work. The answer, or the contralateral statement to that is, let's not call it lazy. Let's call it lazy, right? Maybe I don't want to do the work, right? And there's a lot of human beings on this earth who would just rather, it's not worth the effort, or I don't want to try, or maybe it's too complicated, or I'm just not going to do the work. But then what happens on the other side is complaints, right? It's not fair. Life isn't fair. Life has dealt me a bad set of circumstances. Everybody's life has different circumstances. So what are you going to do with it? Do the work, work through it. And in every situation, since you brought up the word work, it may be emotional work, right? Loss of parents, loss of the siblings, suicides, things that have happened from abuse. There's horrible things that exist in the world. Nobody chose the family that they're born into. Nobody chose the circumstance they're born into. So it may be emotional work. It may be physical work, right? I think about individuals who are injured or have disabilities, some of which give up, some of which are running marathons with no legs, right? So it's the difference in who wants to do the work. And for us, there's no judgment. There's none. We're here to support you. Anyone who's willing to listen to me, right? I will give as much support as I can, but there's going to come a point where I need to stop talking, and then that other person needs to start doing whatever work it takes to get to whatever goal they want to get to.
Sounds like holding the space, but also recognizing that people need to move forward of their own, but it sounds like, that willingness to be able to show up for folks. I think there's also something that you both bring, or you both mentioned about bringing the mindset. You're choosing what kind of mindset you want to bring to, whether it's looking at the glass as half full or recognizing that even though can be struggle, there can also be immense beauty. So it's a both and, it sounds like a lot of times as well, kind of a both and approach. So I want to dig in a little bit with some kind of quick roller questions for each of you, and feel free to bounce off each other as you'd like to. You've talked about your own connection, 35 years, I think you've said, together. So maybe this will come in. What brings each of you joy in your lives?
Me waking up in the morning and seeing the person next to me. I mean, that's a cool thing, waking up in the morning and moving my foot over and oh, good, she's still next to me, type of thing. And if she's not, okay, where is she? I got to go find her. I mean, Lori brings me more joy. My family brings me so much joy. Just getting out of bed and just seeing the sunrise just gives me joy. I'm just so excited about what the next day will bring. And Lord willing, if the next day comes, I'm going at it hard.
Love that.
I couldn't agree more. What brings me joy is the next step. What brings me joy is community. What brings me joy is giving. What brings me joy is empowerment to others. What brings me joy is music. Music guides us, helps us be complete. Frequency, there's so much, it's there. Energy exchange and vibration in music brings so much of that together when it just feels really good. So we have established a feel good space, and we're committed to this haven, and that brings us a lot of joy.
What also really, I think, gives us both joy is anybody we come in contact when there's aha moments that maybe we've become a part of. It just gives a warmth to the heart, and it's almost like a hug, right? Everybody wants to just feel a little love. And so if we can share that love with everybody and anybody, no matter how big or how small, in some little way, to just let somebody else know you're okay, right? You're okay with your imperfection. You're okay with your idiosyncrasies. Everything's okay. We're all okay. And as Lori said, we're all really beautiful in our own way.
I love that. And I think you both do that. One of the reasons I think for me, I've wanted to really stay with the 300-hour journey is how mindful you are of students where they are, but you also meet people where they are. And there's a foundation and grounding I think you bring that is not, at least my experience, based in a strong ego place. It's, it's really support, it's solid, it's very well grounded, but it is like a really safe and beautiful space that you hold, which is really unusual, I think, in a lot of ways. So it's really
There's a lot of trainings, environments, retreats that the philosophy is break them down to build them up. We have to break down all the barriers. And for us in this training space, our idea is, where are you? Let's look at where you are and let's go from there. So there doesn't have to be this breaking down of fear, being judged. It's all about, let's just see where you are right now and let's go. And let's have some fun. And let's enjoy the process. Let's trust the process and let it unfold, let it happen. Many training environments, as you know, in our society, it is about breaking down to build up, but not in this space.
And I think
I'll touch on the word ego for a second, since you brought it up. It's always interesting to me, and I'll go specifically to yoga, the teacher at the beginning of class who says, drop your ego at the door. And the other one who says, hold true to your ego. And so is ego a good thing or is it a bad thing? And I'll suggest that it's both, right? And if we sit on the side of have confidence in ourselves, because we can, if we try and if we do the work, and without that ego of, I think I can, we won't move forward. And on the other hand, when the ego gets so large where you stop listening to others, I should know this already. I'm not going to admit that I don't know this already, right? My ego is so big that becomes a defeating purpose. So you can defeat yourself on two sides, or you can encourage yourself on both sides of your ego. And I love that word ego. And it's this really cool balance. I'm a Libra, right? It's a really cool balance of not letting either side get out of hand. And look, we're all human. So sometimes it does get out of hand. And what I appreciate about my relationship with Lori, what I appreciate with my kids, with those who know me really closely, is when one side gets out of hand, they let me know really quickly, right? You need to settle down now and get yourself right back in balance.
That awareness that comes through community often.
Yeah.
And then there's also this space, just I want to bring in what you mentioned about coming from a place of where people are. I think the ego also has defense structures to try to protect from fear. And it's been really fascinating to me through the yoga training to see, just to bring awareness. And once that trust deepens, self-trust deepens, it allows my heart to become stronger. And the meditation teacher, Sarah Blondin, has this beautiful line about bowing the mind down to the level of the heart, or letting, below the heart even. And I think it's this process of, our minds sometimes work so hard to protect us and keep us safe in the ego, but letting the heart speak. And it's not something that we do within our culture as much, of letting the heart have space and to speak. And it's a different way of being. And so I think meeting students where they are and moving from that doesn't have to involve a process of breaking down, or it doesn't activate that fear space either. So it's in a really beautiful balancing in a different way that's supportive. So
the word trust. We all grew up in whatever home we grew up in, and the trust of the parent, the trust of the siblings. You go out into the world and then you meet somebody at school, in elementary school. Where can the trust go? We've all had trust broken before. You lay out that secret that, to your 8th grade friend, and they go and tell all the others, and you're crushed, right? But the idea of, now that we're in a space of teaching others in a yoga teacher training, or counseling others who work on our teams within our facilities or within the dental office, or even the patients that I see, I think about, I'm in a negative demand business in dentistry. I'm going to make you a piece of jewelry that you're never going to look at, and you're going to pay a lot of money for it. And I'm going to hurt you in the process, right? Even if that hurt is a little injection to get you numb, right? So how do I build that level of trust? And in every single scenario where people recognize that those who come in contact with me, with Lori, we're not in it for any ulterior motive except to just pay it forward, right? We're just trying to do a service. And when you can break through the barrier of somebody else's ego of you're trying to take advantage of me. You're doing whatever it is for negative reasons, as opposed to just accepting. When we break through that barrier, you spoke about joy before, nothing more joyful than that, right? Because there's no ulterior motives here.
Yeah.
That's
Which is,
true.
felt experience. So as we get ready to close soon, we'll move through some of these, feel free to jump in here. What helps keep you moving forward on the days you struggle?
I think it's finding humor, because lots of times when one of us fall into that a space of perhaps negativity or doubt, that you kind of take a step back and laugh about it. But again, we've done the work, so we don't spiral. We come out of a spiral pretty quickly and try to find the positive aspects. Like Jeremy's really, really good at this. And he's also really good at this, not only for himself, but he's really good at this with other people and really helping people identify that it's just continue to move forward and everything is going to work out. We are true believers, is everything as it should be. It's put in front of you for a reason. Now, what are you going to do with it?
Right.
And what, how are you going to turn it? How is it to a more positive space? How is it going to evolve? What's the outcome going to be? And forget so much about that, but just dig into exactly where you are right now. And a great example is this work with our festival. It's the first time we're doing a yoga and music festival. As you know, it's July 8th and 10th in Snowmass Village, Colorado. And there's challenges. There's challenges, no camping. There's challenges where it's really expensive to get here. There's all those challenges, but the production piece, the curating piece of presenters and artists, the people that have committed to coming is so powerful and beautiful and giving that you can't worry about the outcome. Enjoy the process as we're going through it. And we don't know what the outcome's going to be. And we have to be okay with that. Many times we get so stuck in what the outcome is going to be that we can't enjoy the process of getting there, right?
Yeah.
So intentions versus goals. What are our intentions here?
I'll take it a step further. And where you were just sort of going at the end there, but and it's sort of a well-known phrase that is out there. It's not about the end goal, it's about the journey. We embody that. It truly is about the journey. And what keeps us going is reminding ourselves it's not about the end goal ever, right? Because the problem with the end goal is you get there and then what happens, right? You got to get to another goal, right? So let's go on another journey together. And so those moments where whatever, and knock on wood, neither of us will ever have any kind of tragic diseases or anything like that. But, the question is, when sideways things hits us, how quickly can we say, we're going to worry about it, we're going to mourn about it, we're going to fret about it, and then sort of bottling that up and saying, all right, I'm going to give it a half an hour and I'm going to, in a mournful situation, be mournful for a half an hour, but then I've got to move on, right? And it's almost putting time spans, literal time spans, on this idea of, I can't move forward if I get stuck. And so what keeps us moving forward is just moving forward.
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah,
Love that.
This is a really important piece of life, to be in the here now, to work towards things, but what's happening right now, and are you enjoying the process as you move towards something? And we get so stuck on the end goal that we don't even get to enjoy the journey to get there. And then we look back and say, oh wow, it's over. Probably happened to you with your 200 hour. Oh my God, I've arrived, it's over. Now what? But you can admit to yourself that you enjoyed the process getting there. So,
Love that. Yeah.
It's about having fun, Christine, really.
Yeah. And I think that for me, one of the joys with the 200 hour was relishing the beginner's mind. I know I've said that to both of you before, but not needing to know, just allow me to drop into the present moment and just have fun with the process, which is one of the unexpected joys. So
I never forgot, Christine, one time when you were on one of the calls and you were asked to teach the Earth series, and you came into your space to teach all the people in the room, and just came into this space of magnificence. And the reason why was because you were in so much joy of what you've learned, of your music, of your ability to articulate. You did the work, but you found your space, and it was magnificence. It was
cool.
mastery.
It was cool.
And so for that to happen is what drives us forward, right? It's like, oh yeah, I'm in my groove, I'm in my space, and we'll go out of it and we come back into it, and we're going to ebb and flow. And you were flowing that day.
Yeah. Cool. Thank you. Well, one of the things that's been such a surprise to me, I didn't expect, I've been doing yoga since I was 17. I'm 44 now. I had no idea that I would experience so much joy through the yoga teacher training, literally just to experience so much joy. So it's so
Amazing.
fun for me. Yeah.
It's been an honor to have you with us, and you're so much thought provoking, and going within and recognizing things about yourself. And yeah, it's been beautiful to watch you evolve and grow in this new space.
Thank you. It is a new space, and I just love it so deeply, and the space to breathe into it. What key lessons learned would you like to share with others who are working to create change? You talked about a lot of this already.
I would say, one of the key lessons, and, it's a really hard place to get to, but one of the key lessons is as soon as you can get over your ego, as soon as you can soften a little bit, as soon as you can accept the fact that life is what it is,
Right.
and as soon as you can accept the fact that everything is exactly as it's supposed to be, and then move forward, that's, I think, an incredible place to come to. And everybody, in terms of trying to move their life forward, just try to get unstuck. Right? Even if it's just for 10 minutes, right? Just put your timer on for 10 minutes and say, I'm just going to do whatever except be in my stuckness.
Drop the idea of perfectionism, because there is no way that there's no such thing as a perfect yoga pose. Just drop the idea of perfectionism and embody where you are, and embody what you're doing and where you've come. And like Jeremy says, soften is a beautiful word. Soften. Because when we soften, we allow space. When we soften, we allow new ideas and thoughts in. Always reinvent yourself. Always. There is always a new journey to be had. This is the biggest lesson. Reinvention is critical in order for you to be able to explore all that's out there for you that you want to explore, and goes back to getting unstuck. So reinvent yourself and get out of the way of the thought of perfectionism.
I'll also suggest that ask yourself the question, what does worrying accomplish except mind messing, right? All right. We all worry about things, but okay, so what are you going to do about it? Right? Ask yourself, what am I going to do about it? And maybe you can at the moment, maybe you can't. But if you can't do something about it at the moment, why worry about it at the moment? What's the goal in that? What are you going to accomplish in that? And again, it comes back to this idea of softening. Okay, let's go do something else. Enough of that. Let's step over the line, right? Just step over the line and just move on, right? And we'll come back to that. That worry will come visit you again. And
right. Whether you want to do it or
Indeed.
not. Right. I love
Indeed.
that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Great.
Anything else? Anything else you'd like to share with folks? And then in just a moment, I'll ask how people can learn more about your work. Any other thoughts or reflections you'd like to share?
No, I think we've covered a lot of territory with you. It's always a pleasure to chat with you. We just want people to recognize the importance of wellness, of yoga, of mindfulness, of meditation, and how it really can shift mindsets and take people to a higher level of consciousness. We believe that about our work, and we also believe that about music. Music is a very important piece to take one to a higher level of consciousness, and that's the theme, really, of our festival this summer, our Drishti Beats Yoga and Music Festival. And to find out more about us, simple, www.drishtibeats.com. And there is all kinds of information about our music, our trainings, our festival. You can learn a little bit about us. And we're glad to share and answer any questions. We're very available. And we really love pedagogy, teaching people how to teach. That is our forte. And we thrive in the space. And we love giving people an opportunity to take the next step forward for themselves.
I'll add to that Lori mentioned the word meditation, and I'm not 100% sure of who your full audience is. Maybe they're yogic people, maybe they're not. But this idea of meditation, just sitting with your thoughts, not judging your thoughts. Thoughts are thoughts, and they're your own thoughts. And it doesn't mean you need to share them with anybody. And they can be wild, explosive, daydreaming thoughts. They can be dark, harrowing thoughts, but they're just thoughts. And the idea of meditation is just take a deep breath and let that thought kind of pass by. Take another deep breath, let it pass by. And whether you're moving and having thoughts, or sitting still, or doing anything, don't text and drive. But the idea of your thoughts can be released through meditation. And the idea of sitting with your thoughts at any moment of any day with a couple of deep breaths just changes everyone's perspective.
So much. I love that. So we'll include the link in the show notes to DrishtiBeats.com and how to find you on social media. And also want to offer a big gratitude to Drishti Beats for music for the podcast. It brings me so much joy. So thank you so much for that.
Please use it. Yes. It's yours to use.
Thank you. And for your time today. What a delight to talk with both of you. So thank you so much for
joining.
Thanks, Christine. Namaste.
Namaste.